everybody. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, agricultureinformation.com, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience over the last 5 decades working on orchids. The topic, as you can see, science, art, and commerce of orchid growing and display. Of course, this is a very uh, large subject of late, but however, I would like to put it as shortly as possible so that there is some sort of an interest generated in growing orchids and also promoting orchid trade export from India. So let me start with what is an orchid? Everyone knows various flowers which are traded with, but what is orchid which are traded with? That's what is actually we have got to know before we going into the depth of the subject. It is a flowering plant belonging to the family Orchidaceae under monocots scientifically. And here in the picture, this is one of the rarest orchids, Paphiopedilum, found in South India. Only one species here, Paphiopedilum drury, and they are also known as queen of flowers because of their color and structure and longevity of bloom. They are considered to be primitive in origin, in the sense orchids existed during the time of dinosaurs, and over millions of years they have evolved into number of species, and today there are man-made hybrids as well. So they are over the billions of years they have evolved and advanced and specialized. In plant kingdom, they are comparable to humans. In animal kingdom, floral and vegetative parts are highly modified to cope with the change of climate. That's important. And to achieve survival and reproduction. They have a mimicry in the sense they will just modify gradually, suiting to the needs of pollination, in which there is a display is in ingenuity in reproductive mechanisms. How to attract the pollinators is the main thing, so that their survival is dependent on the pollination and the pollinating vector. They have high degree of mimicry. Mimicry means imitation for alluring and enticing the pollinators with shape, color, nectar, and other deceptive mechanisms. You can see in this picture here, you can see here a lip or labellum and a pollinator insect also over there. And let us now consider what are the scientific facts then. Diversity with uniformity. Uniformity means they are structurally, they have a unified fundamental characteristic to distinguish them. But at the same time, those uniform characters have variations, modifications to attract the insects. So there is a tremendous variation and specialization in both vegetative and floral characters, yet they derive similarity in their fundamental and diagnostic features. Which are they? Minute dust-like seeds without food reserve. In all other flowering plant seeds, there is a food reserve to nourish the germinating seedlings, and requiring mycorrhizal association for germination and development. Secondly, flower structure with trimerous condition means three in threes. Flower structure, sepals, petals, etc., are in threes. Recipienation of ovary. In other words, it is a twisting of the ovary so as to bring the flower, the one of the petals which is modified to the lower side, so that the uh, the insects that flies in is facilitated for landing. Fused sexual organs to form column. In a sense, in all other flowering plants, sexual organs are separate, but here in this, they are fused together to, suit their, even if there is no pollinator, because of the survival of their progeny, there is a mechanism with which they can self-pollinate. But basically, they are all insect pollinated. And lastly, and most importantly, modification of one of the petals to form labellum or lip, facilitating the vector or the insect to effect pollination, a striking feature found in all the orchid spawn species. This is just one typical flower showing the flower structure. On the top here, the dorsal sepal, we can see there, and the column, which I call a fused structure of the sexual organs, then the petals laterally, and also the lip, one of the petals modified into such a shape so that the flying insect can, easily land over there and go inside to suck the nectar inside, and while taking off, it will take off the anther pollinia and go and visit the other flower and effect pollination. Here in this, it is illustrated. You can see here the minute seeds at the center of the figure in the black and white, a seed and an enlarged portion of the seed, which are seeds are actually disc-like, microscopic. And you can see a typical flower in the lower left-hand side. You can see there a lily flower and the orchid on the top, which are so so different, and the pollinating vector and modification. So there are various types of orchids. Some are by their habit the epiphytes, in the sense growing on the tree trunks, as you can see here in the picture, and the lithophytes. Litho means stone, boulders growing on the rocks. Terrestrials growing on the the forest floor, in humus-filled forest floor, and the saprophytes having no chlorophyll at all, but dependent totally on the mycorrhiza, and the sympodials. Sym means together, podial stem. Stems are clustered together, and the monopodials, only one stem growing, keeps on growing. The apical tip is meristematic tissue is always active, and there is no branching at all. So these are important things to understand growing orchids. And then, so with all this, structural variations and diversity, orchids are today known for their lovely blooms and are considered to be ornamental. You can see here on the top row, almost all of them are epiphytic forms. You can see the diversity. And in the lower form, the row, you can see the terrestrial roots. And the one in the lower form, this one is known as a jewel orchid because of the design that is found on the leaves. There are a number of species in this, and here Calanthe masica. It is important to note the hybridization started about 120 years ago, rather 140 years ago. The first ever hybrid was produced from Calanthe masica, which is found in the Indian subcontinent. And with that, today we have a large number of hybrids produced. And then we have an interesting geodorum. Geo means bowing towards the earth. The Favni spike bows down, and the earth type also. So these are some of the examples I'm just giving you, illustrating. And they were known in India, right from Vedic period, 5000 before Christ, for their medicinal and ornamental value. Medicinal, especially in ancient Ayurvedic literature by Sushruta and Vagbhata, names of some orchids have been mentioned. For example, Vanda, called Vanada, Bulbophyllum and Ephemerantha as a Purusha Ratna, Elophia nuda as Sala Mishri, Dactyl oryzon, Hattagarika and Gymnadinia orchidis as Sala Panja, Melaxis as Rasana, and for various kinds of diseases. Even today, in the Chavanaprahar that we use for immunity, has at least 4 to 5 orchids, especially the Habenaria, are used in that. Orchids are also important in some of the traditional system of medicines. So today we have 29,555 species in about 729 genera found in the world as per the world's checklist of plant families. Among angiosperms, one in every 15 species is that of an orchid. They are known for their cut flowers in the industry, flower industry, for bouquets making, for decorations, as corsages, pot plants, and so on. Hence, great demand in world market. They are considered as gems in floriculture today because of long-lasting flower qualities, beauty, texture, and designs beholding the onlookers. Considered as gems or blooming gold in floriculture with a multi-million-dollar business world over. Number of Indian species have been used in breeding, as I told before, and production of modern hybrids of commerce, especially the Cymbidiums, Vandas, and Paphiopedilums. So, how they are distributed in India? All the 1,350 species are distributed mostly in the Himalayan region, especially in the maximum numbers in the Northeast region, and also in the Western Ghat ranges. Western Ghat, the northeastern Himalayan region, and also Western Ghats are 2 biodiversity hotspots known in the world. About 1,050 species are distributed in 186 genera, and northeastern Himalayan region has the maximum number of it, with 876 species in 151 genera. Western Ghats has 310 species with 82 genera known to occur, and has ideal agroclimate spread over throughout the subcontinent with tropical, subtropical, and temperate conditions, giving us a wide opportunity to grow various kinds of orchids for trade. Here, this is an analysis of these species, dominant species, number of species of orchids found. The some 20 species have been listed here. One with the maximum dendrobium. Their distribution is throughout India. Bulbophyllum, Habenarias mostly in the the ground orchids area, and so on. The good area having the least in the list, top 20 numbers. So, having so many indigenous species, we have also have exotic species and hybrids introduced in India in the recent times. Over the last 50 years, I must say, several exotic hybrids and hybrid clones and species of Aranda, Arachnis, Ascocentrum, Cattleas, Silogine, Cymbidium, Dendrobium, Mochera, Phalaenopsis, Paphiopedilum, Rhinanthera, and Vanda, and their hybrids have been introduced in India, and hobbies, all over India, maximum in the Northeast and in Karnataka and Kerala have been growing them. Some of the important species is a Paphiopedilum, with which number of hybrids have been produced. And as I told, the first one on the top row is one of the rarest protected species, and of course, almost all of them are brought under Wildlife Conservation Act of Government of India for under the protection list, and illegal collection of orchids from the wild is punishable as if killing an elephant or killing a tiger. And we have other dendrobiums, which is next to in the highest number, and also indigenous ones, the pineapple orchids, especially as you can see here, dendrobium, Callisutaxum, and so on. And then the ornamental epiphytic orchids. These are just I want to go through because of the shortage of time quickly. The Vanda Surelia, blue Vanda, and one of the important orchids in breeding, and Rhinanthera, and which is found in the northeastern hill regions, red Vanda it is called. Rinco stylis, as the legend goes, wherever Sita and Rama went during exile, all along that path, they found this Rinco stylis, which is also called Site Dande in Kannada, Sitale, and Aeridis is confined, and also some of the endemic Vanda species as well. Then the terrestrial forms of Spathoglottis plicata, having clusters formed in the ground, which is sympodial, and Calanthe, Spathoglottis alba, Peius Tankerville, which are found in our country. Dendrobiums, the diversity of them, of course, large number of them are grown, even in Bangalore today. And the dendrobiums from the Western Ghats mostly, done in the top row, on the right-hand side, which I consider Barbaculum, is potentially a good orchid, wild orchids found in Karnataka in the Western Ghat region, which could be utilized for breeding and improvement, which has erect stout spikes with large number of flowers, and there is a potential in breeding and improvement. And the exotic hybrids, Dendrobium clones, large number of clones have been introduced into India, and especially in the cut flower industry, they are most popular as a cut flower, as well as for corsages and decorations in marriages and other functions as well. Cymbidiums, we have about 24 species of Cymbidium in our country, and the industry is flourishing elsewhere in the world, especially in Australia, where not a single natural orchid is found. And the breed, by way of breeding, or the Cymbidiums are improved to such an extent that today is one of the important, specimen in cut flower trade. Phalaenopsis are mostly the pot plants, in the sense for decorations, especially with the long flower spikes and with varying hues of colors and striations and spots on the flowers, quite large flowers, and sometimes they are branched, very long. Also, the spikes are long, arcuate. Then other exotic species and hybrids grown in Bangalore today are Odontoglossum, Vanda hybrids, Zygopetalums, and the Spathoglottis, besides Oncidium amplicatum. With the establishment of the Orchid Society of India, and also in Karnataka, the Orchid Society of Karnataka, There is some awareness created for growing orchids today. And these are some of the cattleyas which are most popular as pot plants, and especially for decorations inside home as well as in the verandas. And there is a lot of hybridization taken place in this. A large flower, single or a multiple flowers, and the paphiopedilums, in other words, lady slipper orchids, are also popularly grown. And these photographs are taken uh, you know, from our hobbies collections in Bangalore. So, where do they occur? In varying elevations and temperature, ranging from tropical, subtropical, alpine, as you can see in this map, which is just indicative only. And there are 5 important hill ranges where orchids are found. Western Himalayas, of course, lesser in number though, there are orchids. Eastern Himalayas, rich in orchids. Vindhya hill ranges, Western Ghats, and the Eastern Ghats. It is mainly because of the number of rivers and rivulets, some of them east flowing, some of them west flowing, forming valleys, plateaus, river basins, and deserts, which add to the richness of the orchid diversity, and different habitats favor them to adapt to the natural conditions. This is how India has become rich in orchid diversity. This is just based on the factors influencing the microclimate. Orchid genera are distributed in various concentration in the 4 phytoclimatic zones of India, mostly tropical zone, subtropical zone, temperate zone, and alpine zone. As I had explained earlier in the slide, how especially the eastern Himalayan region has tropical, subtropical to temperate regions. So also the Sikkim has the same thing, and Himalayan region mostly all the 4 zones are available in which we can grow with varieties of orchids and naturally occurring ones which need attention. Here, the factors influence are mostly the vegetation, humidity, warm and humid temperature ranges, and also the elevation. These are in fact important factors that has to be kept in mind while growing orchids, where exactly a particular orchid comes from. And accordingly, one has got to, when we grow orchids, we have got to know this the fundamental information, and providing them the required climatic condition artificially by way of providing shade nets or a polyhouse construction and humidifiers and so on. So that is a good research and development in India taken place over the last almost 1.5 century in India, especially as I told with the first orchid hybrid produced in India sometime in 1850s. Large number of orchids have been hybrids have been produced, but only unfortunately in India it is only hardly 200 orchids so far, even lesser than that. Whereas orchid hybrids today outnumber 1,80,168 hybrids in the world, whereas we have hardly 200 registered so far. There is a systematic way of enumeration and cataloging the orchids by way of collection, and in that, Botanical Survey of India and various taxonomical institutions of the universities have contributed a lot in understanding the orchids of India. And as per that, today we have 29,000 555 species, 900 genera in the world, 1,350 species in India. There is a vast scope in pollination biology, conservation of these orchids in situ and ex situ. In situ means as such where they occur. Ex situ is outside their natural home or for the natural forest or a habitat, and growing them, providing all the required, you know, uh, 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 conditions, and also necessary nutrition to them. So these are our strengths actually: rich orchid diversity and germplasm, both species and hybrids, and ideal agroclimate, and sound scientific knowledge and expertise available today as to how to grow orchids and propagate them. Biotechnological backing is there. Greenhouse technology is available. Labor is cheap. Ever-growing high-end consumer market and export potential. Only thing is some more government support is needed in production and marketing to boost export. Promotional programs and activities are also there, but they need further, strengthening of the activities and promoting the activities in India, especially the Orchid Society of India, Orchid Society of Arunachal, Orchid Society of Karnataka, and the floriculture societies in Kerala and Mumbai and so on. Despite all these efforts and government support and NGO activities, there has not been impressive progress in export earnings, nor matching production to meet the domestic market. Why is it so? It is mainly because of lack of production. Production, where from production comes? By way of cultivation. Who has to grow? Hobbies, mostly they demand only, and they grow. And some of them may also by way of exchange or some sort of a trade might be there, but they help, in creating interest. And then commercial high-tech farming is lacking. The high-tech farming means what? One for pot plants, another for cut flowers. And they need a large farmhouse. And they also need a facility for post-harvest technology. It is a technology because the orchid flowers, as the other flowers too, are perishable items. They need special containers, and also they need to be conserved en route. They may have to be stored. So accordingly, packing and packaging and transport system has got to be developed, for which there is a training required. Then marketing infrastructure, auction centers are required, wholesale dealers are required, retailers and value addition is required. So involvement of rural and urban folk, especially the rural folk, is important so that they are employed properly. And also in that, involving the corporate sector is also very important to take up the large scale production in farmhouses, which require a technical know-how and large investment. So I analyzed the import and export statistics, contacting the concerned departments, and as per that, I have analyzed species most imported are Dendrobium and Phalaenopsis. 85% Dendrobium, 8% Phalaenopsis. Most imported are cut flowers, 66%, and that too from Thailand, 90%. And importing port is largest import from Delhi, followed by Mumbai and Chennai. In fact, almost all metros indicate sizable amount of imports. But Exports, when we look at the statistics, species most exported are Phalaenopsis, 98%. We have hardly, 3, 4 species found in our country, but it has a demand. And most exported are tissue culture plant. That is an encouraging indication, 97%. It's mainly because of the import restrictions and phytosanitary, requirement in the in the uh, you know the port where it is exported. Especially the importing countries are also strict in observing the United Nations you know uh, CITES requirements. That is how, if we export them, they will not be accepted there in the countries like United States and Netherlands. And export port is almost all from Mumbai. 97% of them are exported from Mumbai. So, to summarize the important export from India commercially, from analysis of EXIM data from 2013 to 16, a decreasing trend in export of our orchid products is seen, marginal increase in 2019, increasing trend in import from 2013 to 2019, with a significant decrease in import during pandemic times. However, it is encouraging to notice export of tissue culture seedlings, plants, etc., pointing towards sustainable development of natural species up to 2019. And a positive trend is the conservation of native orchids and germplasm. Although there is a great demand within the country as well, but one must see that our natural resources are not exploited for export and other trade purposes. So now I come to the art of orchid growing and displaying. Training in orchidology is an important aspect in this. Understanding orchids, their habitat, diversity, distinguishing features, very important. One must know that. And growing techniques, water, what kind of a water one should use. Hard water will not do. And the nutrition, temperature, and humidity, potting, compost, etc. For that, one must know where the orchids come from, their original habitat, and their requirement, whether it is epiphyte or ground orchid. Specific requirement for important genera, especially the exotic ones like Cattleyas and the latest Cymbidium hybrids. They are known for their cut flower capacity, the potential, and the dendrobiums. They have been, so much advanced, and we have hardly any, dendrobium hybrid produce worth, export. And likewise, Phalaenopsis, Paphiopodium, Grenanthera, all these species are found in India, but we have not, been able to exploit them without harming their habitat. So, next one is art of orchid growing and display. How to grow them, in the pot, various kinds of pots, and there is a requirement for proper aeration at the same time and nutrition. So for that, a mixture has got to be made, compost mixture for potting. Potting mixture is an important thing to know. How how much to pot, and some of them are to be hung, and what is a kind of block. They say it, fern block on that. The pendulous types of orchids are to be hung and grown, and they require to be, supplemented with nutrition. But at the same time, the tree ferns are considered as an endangered species, and one must be very careful about that because they are they come under the Wildlife Protection Act. And individual orchid can pot with flowers, species and genus wise. They must know how to distinguish the various, genera, and how to group them. Theme-based landscaping is another aspect, and labeling, because unless we train our people in exhibiting their plant and growing them properly, we will not be able to participate in the export-oriented activities at all. This is a must. And this kind of activity has been taken up from the very beginning of the establishment of the Orchid Society of Karnataka in 2006. And there are quite a large number of members today, as many as 300 members. All of them have been now more or less acquainted with the orchids and how to grow them. This is just a show how they are grown and how they are presented. This is just I am going through because it was to cover it up within the time given to me. And the labeling is very important, and the label should contain when in the competition, no name of the individual who presents it, puts it for competition should be given there, but they will be given a certain number, a code number. And however, name of the species or a hybrid must be fully written completely. That is very important. Otherwise, there is a disqualification for the competition. And so also how to hang them. Cultivating means display how a plant's beauty can be brought out. See, this is an epiphytic of the one display in judging how it has been, judged. The growing technique is first considered. The potting medium is considered. The healthy nature of the plant and the bulbs are considered. And the display of the flower spikes, and as per their nature, a pendulous type. There are erect types, as can be seen in the right hand side here, the erect types, how they are to be grown, how a staking is given, means support is given, how this hangs down, how such kind of an orchid has to be grown. These are some of the, I have attended some international orchid conference as well, where I presented the papers and on this. And this is how they're also judging, how a judging is done. That is very important. Our members are, I am very happy to say, of the Orchid Society of Karnataka are thorough in these aspects in growing. This is how they are to be tabled in the show. And we, over the last several years, the last 6 years, we have been, conducting, but over the last 2 years, we could not do it. This Orchid Festival, Orchid Show, annual show, wherein the members bring and display their, orchids grown in bloom. And they are now experts in doing it, group-wise, species-wise, genera-wise, and how they are to be grown. This kind of activity must be there in almost all important phytogeographic regions of our country. And a thematic arrangement in the show, floral arrangement, as well as the landscaping arrangements. These are some of the aspects in which there is a potentiality to participate, send our, members to the other world orchid conferences and shows, so that our orchids are popularized over there, and gradually our export of orchids are, boosted. Value addition is another aspect of it, how we have to grow. You see, even scientifically, in the right hand side here, the Phalaenopsis, you can see how the pattern is brought out. It is actually latest biotechnological approach with which this pattern is brought, by way of gene transfer. And this is how this kind of a R&D program is very important in our country, so that our orchids are improved further so as to match the world market demand. some of the theme-based arrangements which have been, so beautifully arranged by our members. I'm just giving this one, but such kind of a thing is not held elsewhere in our country, in the other cities. And I had made an attempt in the northeastern region in Arunachal Pradesh, in which such an attempt was done. But there are miles to go to come to the level of competing in the world market. There are, international rules for, judging, and also for growing and displaying, especially. That's why I've chosen displaying is very important aspect. That's why I wanted to trust upon that, and I want to be in time. And there is a rule book available, international rule for orchid exhibitors, and that has to be an important document that we are going to keep with us. And coded numbers are given. All this is just some of the criteria that has to be. And even for the judges, they must have sufficient experience in, while judging. They must know the orchid genera, and how they are grown, and to feel the feeling of the orchids, how, whether it is comfortable, whether it is happy, in other words, whether it is healthy or not. That is how judges must also have a sufficient experience in judging. And this kind of an activity has to be begun 6 months before the exhibition, so that both the judges as well as the uh, the members who exhibit it are trained in it. So criteria for judging, some of the important criteria, they have to judge the number of flowers per spike. How many flowers are there? Lesser number means it is lacking something there, so that it has not been able to boost or give out number of flowers. Number of buds, how many? All flowers need not simultaneously bloom. Some of them at the tip must be in the bud condition. Number of inflorescence, how many spikes it has given out per plant. And for form and arrangement and presentation, these are some of the rules which one has to keep in mind while exhibiting it, even including the judges must be well aware of the sympatalum and the lateral sepals, how they are displayed, whether they are bent, whether they are wide open, and the spur, how, whether it is damaged, twisted, or crumpled, whether it is a natural way of a spur, and the column structure, staminode, all these things are taken into consideration by the panel of judges. So displaying person as well as the judges must be aware of these things, so that there is a fair judgment in of the orchids exhibited. This is some of the improved view of the last orchid show, in which our members have beautifully put up their exhibits, orchids, and in a systematic manner. This is just to show some of these things. View of the 20th World Orchid Summit in Singapore in 2011, for which I was invited to present my talk. And here you can see how a value addition takes place, and how we can create a demand for our orchids in the world orchid trade. This is some view of the South Africa held a World Orchid Conference, 21st World Orchid Conference, South Africa in Johannesburg, where there also I attended on their invitation and presented my paper on Indian orchids. And this is a model that I have brought. What is needed at the moment to boost the orchid trade in India is research and development go hand in hand in order to develop a technology, new hybrids, and package and practice of the new hybrids. And then comes the extension, that is transfer of technology. That has to take place to, throughout India, to all the state departments, through horticulture and forest departments, and through NGOs and societies like the Orchid Society of India and the Orchid Society of Karnataka and similar other societies. And self-help and corporate sectors also must be made aware of that and must be involved. And assistance for infrastructure should come from the government initially, so that the industry gets a boost to develop orchid trade in India. To conclude, orchids are our proud national natural heritage, national orchid of our country at Shillong, Yerkod, Yerkod in Tamil Nadu, Howrah in West Bengal. Besides, regional botanical survey of India circles have grown and displayed native orchids, but they have to come further because they are just simply maintaining some collection, and breeding and trade aspects are not dealt by them because it is not their mandate. And then National Research Center orchids in Sikkim and other botanic gardens of our country also have native orchids depending upon the region, and exotic species and hybrids for breeding and improvements are required. And while selecting the hybrids for breeding, you must know that it produces viable seeds, because the clonal plants, orchids will not be breeding true, because it is cloned to such an extent that it loses its potentiality to breed true. There is a need to organize orchid display and orchid show at the national and international level to highlight the importance and potential of orchids of our country. There is a need to establish National Orchid Center to showcase and display the orchid wealth of our country, besides growing the hybrids produced in India. This would help create awareness on conservation on one hand and growing orchids to boost the orchid industry. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Of course, I have brought all the information so as to put it within the time given, but each one can be elaborated for another 2-3 hours. But I hope this will help in creating awareness at least, so that orchid industry gets a boost. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a very informative and detailed presentation. I will quickly take up the questions from the participants now. In the meantime, can you please stop sharing the screen, sir?
Yeah?
Please stop sharing the screen, sir, so that we can see your full
video. Sure.
Okay. First question is, which states in India are suitable for orchid cultivation?
Yeah?
Sir, you can hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear.
Okay. The first question is, which states in India are suitable for orchid cultivation?
Yeah, Kerala and Karnataka, part of Tamil Nadu, and then the West Bengal, Sikkim, northeastern states, especially, and a part of Maharashtra, and some selected places only in the Western Himalayan region.
Okay. How big are commercial orchid farms typically?
It must be in acres together, as per the capacity of the person. If it is a cluster, that's why I suggest a cluster formation in the self-help groups. A number of farmers are trained, or hobbies are trained, and each one is given a unit of 1 acre each, so that a cluster of production takes place. All put together, it becomes a substantial quantity. That is the model that we have got to develop. Individually also, those who can afford, especially the corporate sector, if they can come up with the 2 acre, 3 acre. See, I have seen in the Thailand, also in Singapore, it spreads over several acres of land for the cut flowers of the dendrobiums, and also in the Cattleya farms in the US. When I visited, there are also large farm with the Cattleyas only. See, like that, also the corporate sectors can take place, but our aim is to also generate employment, and a new avenue is opened up in floriculture, especially orchid-based floriculture, in which a group of entrepreneurs or a farmers or youths are selected, and they are trained properly, and they are given a smaller units, so that each one is benefited, and altogether a particular area gets a benefit.
Okay. Before I move on to the next question, sir, slightly can you adjust the camera, sir? From your forehead, it is getting cut.
Yeah.
Just adjust your camera, sir. Your face is fully not seen. This is fine, sir. Okay. The next question is, where to buy the planting materials for growing orchids?
See, there are certain of late there are certain entrepreneurs come up for planting materials, and for the importation, National Horticulture Board and APIDA, they arrange if there is they come up, a project is approved, they help in importing the quality materials, especially APIDA and the National Horticulture Board. They can be, and there are licensed people in the, especially in Sikkim and Kalimpong area, and also in some part, of course, here in Bangalore there used to be, and some of our members have also started, orchid procurement, and some laboratories which has come up in the early 1970s in India, in Kerala especially, and I think through those agencies also planting materials could be obtained.
Okay. What is the investment required to grow orchids?
Yeah,
What is the investment required to grow orchids?
for 100 square meter area, one may require, because I had estimated it for various to promote, self-help groups, women groups in the northeastern region. That is about 20 years ago, and 22 years ago, and that had come to, per one unit, it had come to about 1.5 lakh rupees at that time. So now the cost is almost double or triple. So accordingly, 4-5 lakhs would be required.
Okay. Where is the market for orchids in India?
Within India, every cut flowers, we must go for cut flower varieties and the clones to for growing. Especially pot plants are also, but they selected like Cattleya, one can have, and the dendrobiums, especially for the tropical conditions. Dendrobiums are suitable, and pot plants, the phalaenopsis are suitable for a place like Bangalore and the suburb area, and also in the Western Ghat region. And for the northeast hill region, it is the cymbidiums and the paphiopedilums. They are the ones which can be taken up in the large quantities. All in plain areas of West Bengal and the Gangetic plains in Brahmaputra river basins. Also, some of these tropical orchids, only in the winter they may have to cover with suitably modify the polyhouse with providing adequate humidity, and increase the temperature over there, because the chillness is below 8 degrees sometimes over there, which is not congenial for these tropical orchids.
Okay, the next question is, what are the most important points for making an orchid farm successful?
You see, first thing is they must get full training, orchid training. Here I have covered and tried to cover all that aspects, but training is an important aspect. That actually for training also some assistance used to be given by National Horticulture Board as well as APIDA, and the youths are to be those who are interested in. They have to be trained in orchid cultivation. Actually, in the NRC orchids, there is an NRC orchid in Sikkim, that is by ICR has developed that one. So also there is one in Hisarghata in Bangalore. They have stopped actually the training program. Earlier they used to, in the beginning they used to do it, and also TBGRI in Kerala in Trivandrum. There is a botanical garden and research institute near Trivandrum. They can they have to be help assist them in the training and visiting some of the orchid farms there, because in TBGRI as well as the NRC orchids in Sikkim, there are farmers who are also at a tradition. Number of people started, or actual orchid trade began from that area, Sikkim and Kalimpong area, and one has to visit those their nurseries where they grow varieties of orchids, and some medium demonstration project there under the NRC, National Research Institute for Orchids, that center, and I think that one has to visit. And here the flora had started in also because of the pandemic and other logistic support. I think they have in a low key now in cultivating the orchids, and they used to import and supply seedlings also, and quite a large number of he was a licensed person, and today he seems to have stopped it. In the northeast region, he has procured a lot of the northeastern council is there, which is to help in this regard to promote orchids as well as floriculture, and he was one of the recognized agencies who used to import, but because of the other logistics support, that also has been stopped, and that requires a sort of a support and a rejuvenation so that the activity of production.
Okay, the next question is, does government provide any subsidy for orchid cultivation?
Subsidy we used to, I will at present I am not sure, because with the pandemic this is more or less come to a halt, and subsidy from the bank NABARD banking support is there, and subsidy is that, but at the moment I'm not sure. For the last 2 years almost come to a halt.
Okay. Will you be able to offer consultancy for setting up commercial orchid farms in India?
Beg your pardon?
Will you be able to offer consultancy for setting up commercial orchid farms in India?
It's a consultancy. I know these days I'm not traveling much because of some health reasons.
Okay.
However, whoever comes to me, I will help. That would be,
Maybe
and
if
I can show
people
the
try
people.
to contact you over phone, you will
Yeah,
guide
I can give a contacts
them.
whom who have been trained, and they can provide consultancy. But whatever the advice required as an advisor, I can go. But a consultancy as such, I'm not doing it now.
Okay. We have one last question, sir. Please tell us about your research background and interest in orchids.
I have been working on our orchids right from the year 1971. I started with the Western Ghat orchids from Karnataka University, that Agriculture University, Hebbal, US Hebbal, it used to be, now which is in Yelahanka. It has become a university, separate university. There I worked, and my first collection of orchids started in Bangalore, there in Hebbal. And then subsequently, I developed an orchidium as a part of my research in Karnataka University, and it is still there. There are some people even today working on orchids on various aspects, especially cytogenetical aspects is being worked out there. And then I moved to the Botanical Survey of India and then to Arunachal Pradesh, the northeastern region. And there I worked for 3 decades, especially transferring the technology of orchid and developed a tissue culture laboratory, clonal propagation, hybridization, induction of polyploidy. All this work, whichever I presented today, are part of my actual work.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We have now completed the round of questions. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I like to thank Dr. Sadananda N Hegde for the talk and for answering the questions. I like to also thank all the participants in this meeting. This meeting will now be closed.
Thank you all.
You're welcome, sir.